Val and I play video games. She plays way more than I do. But I've tried to, over the last year or so, give or take, like try to find a game or two that we could play together, because usually we have different interests. Just because, like, if we're going to play sometimes, like, it's nice to do something together. And there's this game called Overcooked 2, which I don't know if either you guys, Brendan may have heard of it, but I figured, Derek, you haven't. It's there's a first game that I didn't know about. I found out about Overcooked 2 on a YouTube channel a couple months ago, and it's basically just these little cartoon characters, and you run around and you got to make orders, whether it's burgers or pizza or stuff like that. It's just very silly. It's supposed to be fun, and there's barely a story, but it's about surviving the unbread instead of the undead. It's bread that's moldy. But it's a couch co-op game where you got to work together and build the recipes and everything. And we haven't played it for the last couple months just because we got sidetracked with other things, and we were both playing one of the last Zelda game, and we started playing this Overcooked again. And like, I enjoy it because it's like us getting a chance to play together, and you have to work together a little bit, but it stresses Mallory out like crazy because it's timed. It's like you got 4 minutes you got to get to a certain score. You got to complete these recipes. You got to do them right, and you got to do them in a certain order. If you don't get tips. And if you do the wrong thing, like you lose money and everything. And she gets very stressed out and can only play for like 30 to 45 minutes. And I just wanted to throw this out there more or less as like, this is what's going on this weekend, but also like to see if you guys have stuff where like your wife or your girlfriend wants, or like you can do things together. That's something like that, like video games or whatever else that you have some enjoyment of, but it's like limited because one of you gets frustrated very quickly.
My wife plays her games on her phone, but she's a Candy Crush girl.
Oh,
she loves Candy
still?
Crush.
All right.
Oh yeah, and I'm more of a
Angry Birds.
I actually haven't played Angry Birds in a while, but I found this card game online. It's pretty fun. It's called and I've been playing a lot of that. But even our how we pass the time, just fooling around on our phones or on the computer with games, is completely opposite.
No crossover whatsoever.
I mean, there was one point we crossed over and met, and that's why Will's here. But other than that, we have completely different interests. We both like Forensic Files on TV. We both love that show. But as far as like games and stuff like that, no. Every once in a while, we'll play a game together with Will, just because he asks us to play, and we'll play it. But we have completely different interests.
What about those like crime or murder mystery like board games that you can play? Have you guys ever tried getting one of those?
We got Clue Junior for Will about 4 years ago, and we still play that every once in a while.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's the extent of our gaming when it comes to solving crimes. But we do like, all three of us actually, like even Will likes Forensic Files. So headline news, Forensic Files. And on the weekends, it's on for like literally 12 straight hours. It's like 12 straight hours of murder mystery.
Jeez.
What Brendan, about you and Bailey?
She introduced me to Fortnite, and I like it a lot more than she does. Like, she plays it just for fun. I play it because I like the competitive aspect of it. She got upset with me the other night because she's trying to have this deep conversation with me about like her thoughts and stuff, and I'm like texting her back in between playing Fortnite, and I get to like the top 10. I get to like the top 10
thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, I get to the top 10
feelings,
and I get like, I had like a full like, it's called a loadout. She taught me that, where you have like different weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few legendary weapons, few rare weapons, which is like not normal.
Yeah, the best you could do.
I'm set up to win because I've only ever won twice, and I got killed. And you can like spectate after you see who kills you, and I'm watching, and these two people, it's like you're not supposed to do it. They teamed up. You team up by like squatting, like you press the button, like, and you become friends. And they teamed up and they killed me and other people, and then the one guy let the other guy kill him at the end to win. I was like, I texted her, I was like, what is this? Like, I was swearing, like I was all upset, and she's like, okay, I'm going to sleep. And I knew like I made her mad because I diverted the subject from her thoughts and feelings to what like a stupid kids video game. But yeah,
there is a little level of like both of you needing to understand what the time and place is. Because like, there's definitely times it's like, don't have a heart to heart with me. Like I want to beat this thing, or I'm tied up in this other thing and I can't focus on anything else, even if it is silly.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pyda. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howe and Eagle Sports editor Jake Merda Adams.
So
You
can't
do
say
know
anything.
already?
You can't say anything.
Although that's
Will
unfair to
he
me.
know, though?
Hello.
Greetings. Welcome. That was really
We're gonna-
ominous. I'm sorry. I thought other people were going to talk,
I was
too.
going to see if Jake could guess who is on the phone here. What's up, T?
Hi, Mr. T.
I thought that was automated. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, the way I
Greetings.
said it. Greetings.
So
We will be with you
for
momentarily.
Jake, who has not figured out, my brother Tyler is on the phone.
Oh, okay.
We both had.
Well, I haven't met Tyler yet, so
I wasn't sure if maybe his voice sounded similar to mine. People say we look alike, which I disagree with. But
okay.
Since we can't see him right now, although you might have to pull a photo up for us.
yeah,
What's the age difference again?
2 years, 2.5 years.
Are you older?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. We have the same color hair, same color eyes.
Older but not wiser.
But yesterday,
Please
we.
feel free to chime in here, Tyler. Agree with us.
Or disagree.
I always tell
Or-
people I'm the better looking brother, which
Oh,
who messes with their hair the least, you or Tyler?
Tyler, go ahead and tell them about your curly hair. I'm sure they'd love to hear.
I mean, yeah, I have the. Brendan has the straight like straw hair. I have the
Straw.
curly hair. That I mean, that's the best way to describe it. My hair is like curly and fluffy, and Brendan's is like.
We both have the
straight
same
and
haircut
straw.
though. Like his is curly in the front and he has bangs,
Okay.
and mine is just straight. And I try and like texture it, and it doesn't work. My hair
It doesn't work.
isn't curly. Anyways, Tyler and I both had a very momentous day yesterday morning. So I'm gonna let Tyler explain in detail what happened yesterday and how exciting it was for us. So Tyler, just if you wanna answer that question there and say in detail what happened, I'm sure Derek and Jake they have no idea. I'm sure they'd love to hear.
We were competing for our flag football championship at the Family Sports Center, and I am usually the quarterback. I have been the quarterback at least most of the season when I'm there. But we finally got our friend Eddie, who had been gone for quite some time and not been able to play because he was hurt from a car accident, to come back. So we were kind of excited and looking to get a nice win. And throughout the first half, it was much more contested the second time against this team that we had already played. The first time we beat them, we kind of
Toyed with them.
a little towards the end. And then in the championship, they had a couple kids that didn't play us the first time, and they were very good. But we went into the half down 5 points. I think Brendan can probably vouch for it, but I think what happened was we tried running down the clock at the end of the first half, and when I threw a wide open pass to our friend Josh, and uncharacteristically, he dropped it. Josh doesn't.
He's
drop
afraid
very
of the
many
wall.
passes.
There's a wall in the back of the end zone. He was sliding. He dropped the ball, so he got down on himself about that. But go ahead, Tyler.
He doesn't drop very many passes. But the game, obviously, flag football rules are very different than what we normally play. So coming out in the second half, we were able to get a stop because I think it was Brendan who pulled the kid's flag maybe inches before the first down mark. And that was really helpful because it gave us the advantage back that we had in the first half because they deferred to take the ball.
You both definitely tell stories the same, so I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tyler. Continue.
That's all right. But we were kind of neck and neck up until the end, but we finally got another stop. I think it was actually another Brendan flagpole, literally inches before it happened twice, I think, before the kid reached out the ball to get the first down. And we got the ball back. We were just trying to run out the clock. You could take up to 30 seconds of play. And kind of ironically, I threw the ball to Brendan on an out route, and he didn't run it far enough. We could have sealed the game up right there with about a minute left. I think there was a minute 15 left. And Brendan didn't get the first down, so the other team was given a chance to win the game, and all we had to do was get a stop, and we had gotten 2, so we were pretty confident. But there was a coverage breakdown on Josh and I's side, and they didn't throw to Josh and I's side like at all yesterday. They were throwing at Brendan and Eddie's side, which was kind of funny to me. Like they didn't throw at me or Josh all game.
Weak link.
So they got me and Josh to pull over to the left side, and then when they did, the kid was wide open in the back corner, and you only get like the one time out in flag football, and it's a continuously running clock, so you can't really do anything.
We had 24
otherwise.
seconds
So
left.
yeah, and we got it back, and Brendan is notorious for taking the ball from me and trying to be quarterback in those situations. Cause he'll say he has the arm, which is fine. I'll give him that, but I make the better decisions. So Brendan wanted to take the ball and then finally decided against it. And Brendan, I'm glad he didn't, because we've tried throwing Hail Marys with him like 3 times. And every single time, the way he throws the ball, it hits the roof. It hits the roof and bounces back at him. So
wait. Go ahead.
He skies the ball as like high as he can, and it hits the roof, trying to get it as far as he can down the field. And obviously, the roof is pretty high up there. It's high enough for me to be able to throw a deep ball and not even come close to hitting it. So I don't know how Brendan does it like every single time, but
feels intentional.
But we had 24 seconds, and we needed to get down the field, and they had in flag. I hate it how you can blitz once per set of downs, and you get those 3 downs. So they had a kid who was like probably like 6 foot at least, and I'm short. I'm like 5'7", running into my face. So as soon as I caught the ball, I threw it up, anticipating where people were going to be, and Josh caught the ball right beyond the first down marker, so they were able to blitz again. And our friend Eddie is he's kind of a freak athlete.
Yeah, he's nuts.
So on the last play, he looked at me before the second to last play, I should say. He looked at me and he said, "Just throw it to me. I'll be down there." And none of these dudes are jumping as high as me. And when I tell you, like, when I threw this final ball, he was on the left side. I threw it up, and there were 3 kids. When he jumped, his torso was above their heads. Like, his entire torso was above their heads, and they jumped. They all jumped. And Eddie was somehow, like, completely above them. And it's not like these kids were short either. It's just that Eddie has a ridiculous jump. He had the ball in his hands, and obviously in flag, you're not supposed to hit people, but these kids hit him hard from 3 sides. And as he dropped it, it dropped right into Brendan's hands, who, thankfully, because Brendan also has a problem with falling down for whatever reason. Whenever he catches the ball, I swear, every time he'll like slip or fall or whatever, and he's gotten 2 touchdowns called back because he's dove into the end zone, and
his yak is very bad.
And he caught the ball and he fell down, and I was like, oh, like, we all just started celebrating. I didn't, obviously, in the back of my mind, I was like, I really hope that they don't say that Brendan dove into the end zone, because if they do, then we lose. And luckily they didn't. So it was a pretty cool moment for us to have a flag football championship win. It's also funny because we only won our 2 playoff games by a combined 2 points. We played really poorly the week before, and I just thought it was funny. I noticed it this morning when I was going back through the chat and we were signing up for the next session, that we barely won last week, and we won on a Hail Mary this week. So I guess it was meant to be. So that was fun. But it was a good moment for me and Brendan to have where we connected on the winning play. We connected on the winning play of a turkey bowl a couple of years ago too, and that was fun. But I think this one kind of tops that one for sure.
It's like Doug Flutie to Gerard Phelan.
When I tell you, like, you guys remember the Sports Illustrated cover of Calvin Johnson jumping over like the Dallas Cowboys? It was like 2010, 2011. There's a picture that was with that story where he's jumping over 3 people and he's coming down with the ball. As Eddie jumped up to catch the ball, that image flashed in my mind. Like, I'm like, whoa, like he's gonna bring this down. I had full confidence he's gonna bring it down. When he went to pull to his chest, suddenly the ball popped up in the air, and it felt like it floated there for 3 seconds. I like reached out, I grabbed it to my chest, and like Tyler said, like I rolled onto my right shoulder. I probably got in the end zone by like that much, but I got up and I was like, for a second, I was unsure of like what happened. Like I had to like process it, and I saw everybody running around. I was like, I just won the game. Like We ended up like screaming the other team. It was funny because they had their parents and like their friends in the stands. So when they go up with 24 seconds left, they're cheering, they're going crazy.
My gosh.
And we're like,
That's great.
well, damn. And then like when we scored, everyone was quiet. We're running around like tackling each other, screaming. It was crazy. It was
Because you had no fans, or
Sounds
like
to me like that place should have went to New York for the review. If it was that close.
The hero he always dreamed of being in high school football. Tyler, which was the bigger win for him? Ohio State on Friday night or that one?
Well, definitely for me, that one, because Penn State and the Steelers lost, so I was pretty down. If we lost that, I was going to be pretty upset. It would have been a pretty rough weekend. But I think for him, probably that one, despite the Ohio State thing being pretty big for him, I'd say that the flag football one was more sentimental to him, just because that one, you don't get a chance of that every year or like every time, and obviously it's against different competitions. So I don't want to say that Ohio State winning kind of desensitizes him to that sort of stuff, but I'd say that the flag football win definitely felt better.
My last question for you, Tyler, is have you heard of Brendan's whole this season doesn't count thing for Ohio State losing the game to Michigan earlier this year?
I have, and I think that it's funny because both Notre Dame and Michigan have really bad losses, and the 12-team playoff is meant for this to happen, but I do think that Ryan Day, it doesn't matter if they win the national championship or not, he'll still have this thought behind him that he can't win the game that actually matters to most Ohio State fans. There's still a large portion of fans who aren't going to forgive him. They'll be like, oh, you won the national title, but you didn't beat our rivals. Now they're just going to continue and talk and say, oh, we beat the national champions. So Brendan's whole this season doesn't count thing is stupid, but he's only saying it because they're in the national championship. So what if they lose the national championship game, Brendan? Does this season still not count?
I was thinking of that possibility on the drive here, and I don't want to even think of that because, like, not only like if they win, great. It's like kind of the capstone on like everybody's career there. Like that whole recruiting class, the transfer class that they had. If they lose, though, it's like all those guys are gone. It's a new like everyone stepping up into important positions next year is going to be new, except for Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. And you think if they lose, like, that's it. That's all there is. You made it that far just to make it that far. Like, so, but Derek can relate, Tyler, with you about Penn State. I went to give him a high five the other night as Ohio State. Jack Sawyer returns that touchdown, and I went to high five him, and Derek wasn't happy with me. So.
I don't even consider myself to be a Penn State fan.
Oh.
I don't. But hey, I was rooting for Penn State. Don't get me wrong, but I don't consider myself strictly a Penn State fan. But regarding college football, Tyler, do you know that next year Penn State's hosting Oregon? Yeah, I hear the Ducks are flying in for that one.
Oh my God!
Hey.
Oh man!
I am very hopeful for Penn State next year because they just announced that their top two running backs are coming back. So that'll be Brendan's pessimistic, as if Ohio State isn't going to go out and spend like $25 million in the transfer portal anyways.
Is he like the worst fan that you know? Like just the most insufferable fan that you know?
He'll tell you. Tyler will literally tell you like he was there in 2015 when Michigan State beat Ohio State. I cried. When I was a kid, I was telling our roommate this the other day.
Full tears.
Full tears. I was.
I don't want to say that, like, I probably shouldn't say this like a brother or like even on the podcast or anything, but like I found humor in it when he was crying.
No, that's a normal sibling reaction.
Yeah, you guys were how old? So
yeah, that's normal.
He didn't know what.
I found some.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I found some humor in it because then Brendan kind of spiraled out of control, and as a kid, it was always funny whenever Brendan would spiral. It would always get a kick out of me. I would always try and like get it to happen, but I think that I had him to the brink, and that the Ohio State loss is really what set it off. But
you did the heavy lifting.
I like to take credit for him spiraling sometimes. Even now, like when I beat him in the Turkey Bowl this past November, I think like he was ready to spiral and he didn't, and I was like, kind of disappointed almost that he didn't like. And I'm 23 years old, so like I don't know that that's ever faded, but like I think it's funny like thinking back on that one, because that one was probably a top 5 moment of like Brendan spiraling, and it was all because Michigan State kicker hit a field goal, and like that for whatever reason, like obviously now like that upset me too, but like I don't think I'd cry even if Penn State or whoever lost. Like I don't think I'd cry.
I cried after the Steelers lost to the Packers in Super Bowl 45 too. So
All right.
It's interesting though, because you're the younger
consistent.
brother. Are you the youngest though?
no.
No,
We have
I'm
two
Oh,
sisters.
you're like the middle child.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
I'm
sense.
The second oldest.
But the
of
thing
4.
is, between Tyler and I, like he sounds so composed right now. But if you're with him during a Steelers game or a Penn State game, he freaks out, and I'm the more like composed one. Like I'm the brother that can suppress his feelings or like just
Until you spiral.
Until it
calm.
pops.
I don't spiral that much. So
That's gonna be. We gotta give you a spiral. I'm just gonna call you Spiral.
for example, we went down the other night. We went down the other day, and I'm like, Tyler got mad at me, or yesterday, Tyler got mad at me because I went over to him after they scored the touchdown, and I was getting mad at him for seemingly being down that they scored the touchdown. I'm like, we still have 24 seconds, and he told me to shut the F up. So,
No, I just said it. I said, shut up, just go away, just go. And that's normal because Brendan will come over, and it's not even like what he says. It's that he touches you, and I don't know if he does it like other people. Brendan has this problem with touching me. Like he'll touch my head, or he'll pat me on the back, and I don't want to be touched. Like I don't like being touched. Like I don't know what fascination he has with touching me whenever like I'm
He's
upset.
consoling you. Oh, that's
Like,
funny though.
I think he's known, like ever since we were kids, like he's always done it, and every single time he gets the same reaction, and like it's like he does it's like the Steelers, they do the same thing hoping for a different reaction. He's gonna get the same thing every time.
Well, at least that explains how he's been treating me in the office the last 2.5 years.
my God.
Oh, all right. Well, that was a fun therapy session, I think.
I
Congratulations on
figured
the
you
win.
guys would like to hear from someone other than me because Derek thinks that I'm braggadocious. So-
Laura's right. You guys tell the story. Like, I bet you if you told that story, it would be the exact
Yes.
same way. Like,
The
almost to
pacing,
the detail.
the details, yeah, I get that. I'll tell stories sometimes where I give too many details, and I can just see people looking at me like, "Do we need to know that? Do we need to know that you were wearing that outfit that you really love and whatever?" That's how girls tell stories. But sorry, I didn't mean to call you guys girls, but sometimes you give too many details.
My brother tells stories completely different from me, but like you two tell them exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Exactly.
That's fun.
Thanks
Well,
for joining us,
congratulations on the
Tyler.
win.
Congrats.
All right, Tyler. I'll see you later.
on the big flag win. Session 2 coming up, I guess.
See you later.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tyler.
take care.
Bye.
All right. So, unfortunately, for the 5th straight playoff game, the Steelers bowed out in the first round, 28-14 down in Baltimore on Saturday night. End of the season. Here's the thing. I know this hits really close to home for Brendan, so I want to get somewhat of an objective point of view. So I'm going to go to Jake first on this one. Jake, what are your thoughts on the way the Steelers season ended and your thoughts on the season as a whole?
Russ ain't it. He's not it. Been saying he's not it. He is not it.
I can't wait till my turn to talk. Go ahead.
The offense, I mean, the defense gave up 28 points, but that's also Lamar Jackson. Like that, you're not going to hold that offense to 14 points.
They
every
should have
single time.
scored more, honestly, with the way that offense looked.
Yeah, the Steelers. I mean, I half paid attention to that game because it was just so boring the entire time. It was the Ravens controlled that game, and you're just waiting for it to be over. It's what's the final score going to be, not who's going to win this game. The Steelers have to fix a lot of stuff. That offense is good enough to win in the regular season, but it is not explosive. I mean, the run game's fine. The offensive line was banged up all year, so that's part of it. But I just don't think Russell Wilson in that passing game is explosive enough.
The ground game gained 29 yards on Saturday night. That's not.
I didn't even know that.
Quick. I will say this: if you want to comment on that game and you want to criticize one thing first and foremost, and you criticize Russell Wilson, that obviously means that you're biased against Russell Wilson.
I am.
Who had the worst game? When you take into account the whole game, Brendan, who had the worst game? Wilson, who threw for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns, or the defense that gave up 299 yards rushing and 6 yards per carry?
Not just the defense. I wrote for the other website that I write for on Saturday night after the game. TJ Watt has played 2 games and has not recorded an official statistic. In the last 2 games,
Yeah.
your best defensive player is out there, and that
He's
might be because of
clearly
game
injured.
plan. He was chasing Derrick Henry when Lamar Jackson would pull it on that read option. But 2 games without a tackle?
Yeah.
As TJ Watt, who wants to be defensive player of the year, like at that point, it's
Not this
come on
year.
now.
I've generally been a Tomlin defender because I think there's like you can probably name in any given year maybe 3 coaches who are legitimately better than him. Who, if you were to take them all, put them in free agency, and give you get one pick at a coach to hire for your team, he'd most years be in your top 5, if not top 3. He's very steady. He's very good. This is the first time where I look at this and the way that this team ended the stretch, the last 5 games, is very similar to the way that the Eagles did last year. And when the Eagles did last year, Nick Sirianni almost lost his job, and he didn't have anywhere near the security that Tomlin does. Now, I don't think the Steelers are going to fire Tomlin or Tomlin's going to walk away this year. But now I'm starting to come around to, okay, the message isn't sinking in anymore. Something's wrong here, and either it's going to require a coaching shakeup, which, after 18 years in charge, that's a heck of a long time. Bravo to him. He should be celebrated out the door whenever that day comes. Hopefully under better circumstances if you're a Steelers fan, but if this is the beginning of the end, this looked like the beginning of the end to me. I could be wrong. He could coach another 20 years for all I know.
So my piece on this, right, is when I was a kid, I would watch the same movie, Daredevil, with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
Oh,
Jennifer Garner was my first ever childhood crush, by the way, in
Fair.
that movie.
Mine was in kindergarten.
I would watch that movie over and over, and as a kid, for some reason, I expected a different ending. I was always like, maybe it'll end better this time. As a kid, you think something like that, but I kind of liken what we saw the other night, and I don't know how Derek will feel about this, to that. Like, I wasn't surprised. Like, before the game, I was very excited, like, for the Steelers playoff game. Saw Ray Lewis come out, or the flashes of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. I was like, I hate Baltimore. I can't stand them. And then the game gets on, and when things kind of became more evident, my feelings weren't as hurt as I thought they'd be, because I was prepared for what was going to happen. I saw it coming, and as much as I want to be hopeful about what comes forward with Najee Harris is a free agent, they have to make a choice between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You guys know which one I want there.
You need receivers.
Should I really be surprised at what comes forward? I don't really think so.
I think, any coach, any fan of a team in a perfect world, your offense and defense are both playing at their best this time of the year, right? At the very least, if you want to have any chance of making a run in the playoffs, you have to have at least one of your 2 units, offense or defense, playing its best.
They can't even blame injuries either. Everyone that was a key part of that team was – like, I did the inactive report for the site that I write for. I wrote before the game. I was like, they're fully healthy. There's not, like, a star player out on either side. They may be banged up. Of course, everyone's banged up. You can't use that as an excuse. But their inactives list wasn't anyone where you're like, oh, man, we really need him in this game. Like, Corey Trice got burned by Jamar Chase last week. Like, oh, no, he's not playing. Then that's probably the most telling part of it, is all these guys are starters. They're important pieces. And that defense, like Derek said, there were just some plays it's like they don't want to tackle. You don't want to run in Derrick Henry. You don't want to chase Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson didn't get hit hard, I think, the entire game. He was always scurrying off to the sideline or getting to safety. Like, you should want to hit him, not hurt him, but you should want to, like, make him feel you, and they didn't.
Regarding a team and playing their best, not playing their best, when you look at the Steelers this year, when was as far as the yards they were putting up and the points they were putting up, when was the offense at its best this year? I know you're not going to want to hear this, but it's facts. The first 3 or 4 games that Wilson played.
Oh, yeah.
And you throw in the game against Cincinnati in early December when he threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, but that was over a month ago. When was the defense playing its best this year? At the start of the season, the Steelers went on a 3-game winning streak to open the season, gave up 26 combined points in three games. But this is January, and neither one of those units was close to being at its best.
I would argue
Obviously.
that the offense looked its most cohesive, and Derek's going to roll his eyes at this, but when Justin Fields was on the field. That might be part of the defense playing the way it did early and him having more chances and more time to kind of do that.
I thought it looked more dynamic because he brings a different element than Russ can. But Russ was more explosive those first couple games than later on.
I think regarding you said the Steelers got to make a decision. I mean, I could be proven completely wrong here. I think that Wilson was a one and done.
I
Really,
hope so.
And I honestly don't. Even if they would have won a couple playoff games, I mean, you look at what's he going to be, 37 next year?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing against Wilson right now, in my mind, is his age. I think he was put in because the Steelers thought that they needed to have a more explosive passing game to have a shot at a championship this year. And I go back, and I know this is 2020, but we go back to the win over Cleveland on December 8th, which turned out to be their last win this year, which boggles my mind. After that win, they were 10-3. And I remember watching the Football Night in America broadcast that night prior to the Sunday night game, and they were talking about the Steelers 10-3, and the one commentator said, hey, they got Kansas City on their schedule coming to Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. If they win that game and they get a couple things else work their way, we could be talking about the Steelers with the number one seed here. Well, we all know how it turned out. They didn't win a game the rest of the season, and it started with, I hate to admit this, the Philadelphia game in mid-December.
The parallels between the two teams, though, last year and this year, it's so striking because the Eagles were 11-1 last year and then lost 6 of their last 7 games and looked almost as bad. No, actually, no. The Eagles in that stretch looked worse than the Steelers did this year in this last stretch by a lot, but it was still very similar.
You know who isn't coming to save the Steelers, though? Saquon Barkley.
No.
The Steelers don't have a Jalen Hurts. As much as I hate to say it, I can't stand Jalen Hurts. They don't have one. They don't have A.J. Brown, who was reading a book on the sidelines last night. Didn't know what that was about. And they don't have a Devontae Smith. The Eagles' offense
should be so much better.
Has so many stars that the Steelers just lack. Like, you have George Pickens, who I'm not even sure he knows what optimistic means. So,
obviously, you're an Eagles fan. We know who you're rooting for. Do you have a rooting interest in the NFL playoffs the rest of the way? I'm going with the Rams. They play tonight. By the time this show actually drops, they might be out of the playoffs. But I like Stafford, and I'm putting my apples in the cart of the Los Angeles Rams.
I don't have a team that I'm rooting for. I have 3 teams that I'm rooting against. Jake, I'm sorry. I don't want Philly to win. I don't want Baltimore to win. And Kansas City, I hope to live the rest of my life and never see them win a Super Bowl again. So those are my 3 teams. As long as they're out, it'll almost be
how about they move?
Some sort of consolation.
I hear Providence, Rhode Island wants an NFL team. They're getting sick of the Patriots.
The more important question, though, is Jennifer Gardner, Derek, who was your childhood crush?
Jenny Garth, absolutely. Oh, my gosh.
Jenny Garth. Laura, who was your childhood crush? Celebrity crush?
Devin Sawa.
Who's Devin Sawa?
Do you remember he was in that show Sequest? Do you remember that show Sequest?
I remember the show.
He was also in one of the Mighty Ducks. Actually, hold on, strike that, reverse it. Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson, to this day, he's fine.
I don't know any of who you guys are talking about.
He was in Dawson's Creek.
He was in Dawson's Creek.
Pacey.
Right now,
Pacey.
he's in this show where he's like a doctor on a yacht, and I'm just like, done. Done. What yacht is this? Where is it? I'm going on vacation.
Jenny Garth in 90210.
Yeah, I was just going to say 90210. Yeah, she's still gorgeous.
Well, she's gotten some work done, but, we all have, right? So,
whatever. Yeah, same.
Jake, you can attest to Brendan. You got some work done. We all got work done.
I think if I remember correctly, this may not be like the first one, but I know it's the longest lasting one, and it was Emma Watson when she was in Harry Potter. Especially like year 3 on when she
I was going to say which ones?
I mean, there was year 1 and 2 when I'm 11 years old and don't know any of this stuff. No, it probably didn't count. It was like movie 3 and 4 where it was like, okay, yeah, I can rock with this for a while.
Daredevil, I was like 5 or 6.
Jennifer Gardner's a really good pull there. Like, her and that and Alias. Yeah, I watched Alias a good bit. I watched Daredevil a couple times at that age. Yeah,
my dad brought me to see Elektra in theaters when I was like
such
8.
a bad movie.
It was a bad movie, but I did
saw
not
when you
care.
were 8?
Yeah. My parents let me play Grand Theft Auto when I was like 4. So
yeah,
I'm dead serious.
I think mine was Emma Watson. I'm pretty sure.
Karns City girls basketball coach Steve Andreassi is joining us today on the Ion Sports podcast. Steve, who previously coached Karns City's boys for 7 years earlier this century, is now in his 8th season of coaching the Gremlin girls. They are 2-time defending District 9 champions and are 11-1 entering Monday night's game against North Clarion. Steve, we appreciate you joining us. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I got to be honest, when you asked me to come on the show, I actually never heard of it. I didn't know you had a podcast. And so I did some research and I discovered that, you've done this for quite a while now. And as I was going through some of the topics and that you guys discussed, I ran across one from Melfine Fogel. If you remember last year, Derek, you may not have been involved, but Laura, I think, was. Melfine's son, Mark, is the prisoner being detained in the Russian prison from Butler. And he's my cousin. Melfine and my mother were, or my father, excuse me, were cousins and grew up in Brady's Bend together in the 1920s and 30s. But I really appreciate knowing that you guys do these human interest stories and you reach out to not only athletics and cover a lot of things here in Butler County that are worthy of hearing. So I'm glad to be on, and I appreciate some of the things the Butler Eagle does.
We appreciate you, Steve. Thanks for your time. In advance, we're going to get into the interview regarding your team here. The girls are off to a great start. What is working well for them offensively, defensively, and who are some of the top players so far for you?
Well, it's a group effort. They are really starting to gel. Very unselfish. For the seniors, it's been 4 years of working together and playing together, and then introducing a couple more. The 4 seniors, Chloe Fritsch and Brooklyn Taylor and Savannah Prescott and Shea Pistorius, and then 2 juniors, Naomi Vaneski and Hannah Daly, and sophomore Hannah Somerville. They've been doing this for a couple years now, and the seniors have been doing it for 4 years, and they just play together well. They communicate well. They talk well. They really inspire each other. They cheer for each other in practice. They love being around each other, and it shows on the court. They share the basketball well, but the number one thing they love to do is play defense, and it is truly fun when you don't have to tell your players to play hard. They just play hard. They cheer for each other hard. They rally around each other hard. They're always trying to pick each other up. So it is quite the pleasure coaching this group of girls who are playing truly for each other.
Steve, last year, obviously, you guys ended up with a good season, won a District 9 title, and but you guys would have been able to, I believe, possibly go further had you had Chloe Fritsch, and she got a knee injury and midway through the season, was lost for the year. I know she's back on the court. Is she back to full strength for you, and what does her return mean to the team?
She is back. She is full strength. She got cleared November, just in time for the beginning of our practice. Surprisingly, I think to her and to all of us, because it was just barely 9 months post surgery that, but she worked her butt off. She worked hard to get back. She didn't know what was going to happen, but her doctor cleared her at the end of October and gave her a couple weeks to for conditioning and just to see how things would go, and then he gave her the final go-ahead. So she is back. She is, along with the post-operative rehabilitation goes, she hadn't touched the basketball in a long time. So that was the next phase for her to get back, and she's really starting to finally get it back now. She was our true point guard. And when she's in the game for us this year, she takes the reins and takes over. So we're glad to have her back, and she is definitely getting better every game and improving.
It's a common thing for Karns City's girls to have freshmen who not only can contribute, but in some cases star for the varsity team. Steve, what can you tell us about what kind of experience the girls get at the junior high level, and how much does travel ball factor into them entering the varsity program with, hit the ground running, so to speak?
Yeah, it's combination. It all starts with how involved the parents are, and I say that I've said that for years, that a success of a program, no matter what sport it may be, or even doesn't have to be a sport, but the success of a program relies heavily on parents and how they've enabled and bought into it, and I think we have that. I remember going to a AAU tournament a couple years ago up at Slippery Rock, and it was on 2 or 3 different teams, but we had 14 Karns City girls playing AAU in the summer for travel ball. So that's a parent thing. They're the ones that take the time and spend the money and get their kids to go play for other coaches in the summer and the off season. But as far as our junior high season, we've been blessed with good coaches. Kelly Keppel Johnston was the first girl off the bench in the 2000 state championship team. She's been one of our coaches for a while. Her mother was a coach for the program for a long time. Chris Bellis, our current AD, former boys coach, former girls coach. His stepdaughter is Naomi Vineski on our team. I think he even coached girls junior high when he was coaching boys varsity. Obviously, when you have someone like him who's been coaching as long as I have on your staff, you're going to do things right. So as much as I don't believe that our junior high season is long enough, I think they get shortchanged in our current league. We try to go above and beyond to make those girls ready. And even this year we had 3 freshmen that's played regularly, and unfortunately one of them tore her ACL up at Lakeview in the Christmas tournament against Slippery Rock. But that's Caitlin Van Dyke, the girls soccer player. I think she scored over 20-some goals. She tore her ACL here in the Christmas tournament, but she was getting time, and we got a couple other girls, Liv Farron and Maddie Mahood, that are getting some time, and there's a couple other girls not too far away, but I think it's a commonplace that we definitely have a collection of people that have worked hard to make our kids better before they even enter JV. I can also tell you one more thing. When COVID hit, yes, we in the fall of, I think it was 2020, in March, the whole world shut down, and then obviously basketball season was over. But that summer, we had a ton of kids participating, where I know a lot of programs across Butler County and even north of the league we play in, they shut their program, and their kids never got to touch a basketball from March until the November. And then our junior high season did get canceled, but our girls entered travel ball league. So it's a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So we're just blessed here at Karns City to have a lot of people all in on it.
Steve, you mentioned some of the veterans on the team earlier in our discussion here: Brooklyn Taylor, Chloe Fritsch, Naomi Vineski, Hannah Daly, and Savannah Prescott, just to name a few. But those are upperclassmen. What kind of a relationship do they have currently with the underclassmen on the team?
It's awesome. If you walked in the gym and didn't know who was who, you wouldn't know who was senior, who was a freshman. Just the way they treat each other. During the JV games, the varsity sits behind the JV bench and constantly cheering for them and clapping and hooting and hollering. And then during timeouts, we do a thing in Karns City where every timeout, whether it's JV or varsity, the rest of the team members form a half circle, arm in arm. And they jump off the bench and get bleachers and get down there and do that for JV girls. They're very active. And then the JV girls turn around on the bench and they start chants with the student section, defense, and clapping their hands. And every time a player comes off the court, they stand up and give them a high five. So it is unbelievable how both the older and the younger groups mesh. And it goes back to a lot of different reasons, and it's parents, and it's how they were brought up, and then ultimately it's them doing it on their own. During practice, we're running drills, and they just constantly are encouraging each other, and that's freshmen encouraging seniors and seniors encouraging freshmen. And I couldn't be any more pleased and blessed to have this group of girls together.
You talked about the defense, and I don't know if there's ever been, well, I should say this, the vast majority of coaches I've dealt with at the high school level preach defense first. And I looked back at over the last 2 years, your girls won 2 District 9 titles over the last 2 years by giving up a combined 41 points. I believe those games were against Brookville last year and Kane the year before that. It's one thing to stress defense, but to have the girls executed on the court specifically, what are the girls doing well this year defensively? And, how is that able to spark the team? I would think it's just as big at that end as a kid hitting a big tray at the other end.
Yeah, we always talk about the biggest plays of basketball. And on the defensive end, it's a charge is the biggest play to get the crowd going. I want more charges. I want our girls to sacrifice. But I could tell you this: they are there for each other. Our number one goal here a couple of years ago was that you got to know you have help defense behind you, but you got to guard your girl better. And the girl with the ball needs to be guarded better. If you watch basketball on TV, you see less and less help defense on, when you're watching collegiately and pros, and that's what we've been trying to preach is you need to guard the ball harder. You need to make that girl have a really tough time of trying to get it to the hoop or even passing it to one of their teammates or shooting. And that I think they bought into that. They do that, and they do it extremely well. And they also know if they make a mistake and they reach and the girl goes by them, that we got help defense right behind you. And then we fly, close out. There's a list of rules, fundamentally how to play defense. And there's the biggest factor of all. Give everything you got. And I've never had to tell these girls to play hard. They just play hard. That's their mentality. And when you have that mentality as a group and you can communicate with each other, and we just started recently switching off of ball screens or dribble handoffs, and they bought into it. They're communicating it. So it's a mentality, and they've bought into it, and they've taken it to another level. This year, we're giving up 32 points a game. And that's once again, proud to see and watch how hard they work on the court.
Steve, I don't want to catch you off guard here with a question, but I thought of this just as I sat down. Playing in District 9, you guys have a number of pretty decent road trips as far as time goes. What's the average bus ride like for the team? Is it lighthearted? Who can be counted on to kind of keep the mood light on that bus on the way up to Brockway or wherever?
Yeah, if I go off our schedule, we had a tip-off tournament in Aquinas, which was about an hour down Route 8, Gibsonia, I believe. So those 2-hour trips, and then we went to Punxsutawney. No, we didn't. Yes, we did go to Punxsutawney in our third game. We traveled. So it's weird because our closest schools, Union, AC, Montauk, we only play them once, and that's once every other year. So it seems like if we want to go play a tougher schedule, we got to get on the bus. And when we do that, Lakeview's an hour away. We played Seton LaSalle and Aquinas down there. On those two trips, we're going to Armstrong, which isn't far. But as we go on the bus, the girls are pretty subdued on the way.
Really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, after a few minutes here and there, they usually close their eyes, put their headphones on, and turn the music up, and then it's on the way home. They might get a little carried away. But, and the other thing they love about and most everybody rides a bus home, but one of the things they really love about the long road trips is we're usually going to stop at Sheetz or somewhere on the way home. So, and when they get the caffeine in them, and we're on our way home from Brookville or Punxsutawney at 9:45 at night, things get wound up in music and singing, and it's all of them. Honestly, you talked earlier about how do the seniors get along with the freshmen. For the girls that occasionally don't ride the bus, it's like all the freshmen migrate to the back, and they all communicate like they're all seniors or all freshmen. But there's really no one ringleader, so to speak. If you're looking for Hannah Daly is about as close as we got as our jokester. But they're all unique, and they all have fun together, and it is fun to watch how they get along.
You are a Karns City grad yourself, class of '82. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Long time ago. Yep.
Between playing and coaching, you've devoted so much of your life to basketball. Who and or what was involved with you gaining a passion for the game?
Wow. I can tell you, when I was a little boy, I just remember watching and playing basketball. It was like, I loved it. I fell in love with it. I couldn't get enough of it. I was the guy who carried a basketball with him everywhere and dribbling, and I don't know why I wasn't a little better, because I always had a ball in my hand, but I just loved it. And I think it was watching college basketball was really high flying. I could name the NC State 74 starters, probably not now, but I just fell in love with watching Notre Dame and some of their players. But then I started playing at, in elementary school, and I couldn't get enough. And on into junior high, there was one coach who didn't even coach me. He coached my brother. He left before I got up there. He left, actually, I think right before my sophomore year, so I never got. Art Lopkowski was my brother's coach, and he made a major impact on my brother as well as me. If you were to ask my brother Chris, the former NOC coach, he would have told you the same thing. But then my coach was Randy Huey in high school. Randy is a Butler grad, was a fabulous player up at Westminster, then came to Karns City as a teacher and coach. And then after that, I just played the game. Oh, man, I played the game for a long time. Actually, I played basketball until I started coaching. So I can pretty much tell you, you can pretty much do the math and figure out when I stopped playing and started coaching in the year 1999. But it was just influenced by a lot, but mostly just me. I don't know why. I just loved the game, and I just wanted more of it.
So I mentioned earlier that before becoming Karns City's girls head coach, you were the head coach of the boys program. You were head coach of the boys program when I got here in 2002. And before that, you were an assistant with Larry Dill on that 2000 team, the girls team that won the state championship. Can you believe it's been a quarter century, Steve?
Yeah, no. Crazy. All those girls, there was 5 seniors and 8 sophomores on that team, no juniors. And obviously we still had freshman team at that time. But those girls were all in their 40s.
Wow.
Yeah. So that tells you how old I am, So that was an incredible year. So Larry Deal, a good friend of ours, had asked me and David Kirschbaumer and Chris Bellis to be volunteer assistants. And, he knew he had a special group. He knew that, this group they had already gone to the quarterfinals the year before. I think they went to they won a couple games when they were sophomores. And so they just gradually made the steps year in and year out. And, they had really 2 basketball players that went on and played. Chris Kuzik was the point guard, 5'11" point guard, who went on to play at Baldwin Wallace. They had Courtney Radigan, the 6'3" center, who went on to play at IUP. And, after that, I always said if you have a good point guard and a good center and 3 or 4 really good role players, which we did, then you're going to go far. And that's exactly what happened. And all of us coaches spent a lot of time together to work hard and make this team as good as we thought they could be. And then they did the rest. But Kelly, like I mentioned, Kelly Keppel Johnston, she was the sophomore and really only player that played off the bench. It was an incredible run in that PIAA playoff round. The most memorable game was probably the Seton LaSalle game. They were coached by a legendary Pittsburgh Catholic coach, and we played him during the season and beat him, and then he was convinced that they were going to win in Butler in that game, and our girls dominated in the fourth quarter, and we won by maybe 11, and then we went on to the Western Final, the state semis, and we had foul trouble. I remember that game, and Rhonda Vlasic, who was one of the other starters, along with Carrie Guthrie and Alicia Anderson. Rhonda wasn't asked to score on our team, but she went off for 20 points, and I think we had girls in foul trouble. Rhonda's daughter is Caitlin Van Dyke.
Oh, jeez. Everything's tied together up there at Karns City.
Yeah, the family tree sometimes don't go too far, but irregardless, it was an incredible group, and I just think when Larry asked us to coach, that's when I kind of got my start, and before me, David Kirschbaumer quit. Now he's a volunteer assistant for me, and Chris Bellis had been coaching all along as well, and now he's the AD, and I'm sure he's itching to maybe coach again someday. But I just know that it's all in our blood. We just love it. And when you have a special team like that year 2000, of those girls had a desire and a will to win like no other, and we don't have a 6'3" center and a 5'11" point guard this year at Karns City, but I have a connection. Excuse me, that this group of girls remind me of that group in their desire and how hard they work, and obviously that team went a long ways, and let me tell you that when that team won the state championship 17 years later, we were a public school, and we beat a private school, but Bishop Hoban, and Bishop Hoban had just won the state championship the year before that. But there was private schools were dominating the scene back then, and then 17 years later, a private school finally won the AA girls again, 2017. That's how hard it is to compete at that level. You had mentioned earlier about moving to the next step. When you're dealing with private institutions that can go out and take players, it's hard. But that team did it that year. I think we beat a couple, 3 private schools on the way to do that. So great memories. I often refer to the banner to our teams nowadays. I keep pointing up at that banner and tell them some of the stories and details of how they got there and, what worked for them. And so it was great. I got to do it with my friends, but also got to do it with that great group of girls who went for no ends to be successful. So it was very, very fun.
That 2000 team went 31-1.
Yeah.
And coaches always talk about the importance of free throws. I want to throw one stat out there. I think this is pretty incredible. In the state semifinal, the Western final, you guys played Southern Huntington. And then the final, you played Bishop Hoban. And those 2 games combined, Karns City went 51 of 56 from the free throw line. You talk about clutch. I mean, step of the line. We're not talking practice. We're not talking a game in late December. We're talking state semifinal, state final, 56 free throws attempted, just 5 misses. Wow.
Well, I did not know the Southern Huntington stat line. So I know that we were 30 of 33 at the Hershey Arena, which is incredible in itself with that, the depth perception of the big arenas. I knew that they were a good three-throw shooting team. I assume they were up around 80%, but you can't sit there and talk about it. And I don't know what it is nowadays. It's like the easiest shot in basketball. There's nobody guarding you. You can do it resting. You can take a deep breath before you shoot. You get 10 seconds to shoot. And we shoot 62%. So we talk about it all the time. And I've used that stat, when I pointed up to that banner to our girls, I talked about that 30 of 33. And now I have another one to mention, the 51 of 56. So that we've only missed 2 against Southern Huntington. But the other thing about that team I wanted to mention is, so we got in a tip-off tournament in 2000 at Blackhawk. And in that tournament was Blackhawk, obviously, Karns City, Erie McDowell, and Oakland Catholic. Blackhawk, Oakland Catholic, and Karns City all went to the state championship. We were beating Oakland Catholic with 2.5 minutes to go by 5, and we ended up losing in regulation, or maybe it was overtime, but we ended up losing to them. So they went 31-0 on to the state championship. We were 30-1 on to the state championship, and they lost. And Susie McConnell was the coach for Oakland Catholic at the time. And I can't remember who they lost to, but I remember watching an interview. This was after we had won. I remember watching an interview, and Coach McConnell said, the question was posed to her, was this the best team you faced this year? And she said, no, absolutely not. Karns City was the best team we played this year, and we should have beat that team today. And, just that statement alone told you what we accomplished as players and coaches.
Great memories, and great to talk with you, Steve. I hope to catch up with you in person soon, but thank you so much for your time today. Good luck tonight against North Clarion.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, so we're going to stick with the sad Steelers theme. I heard this on the way coming in on the radio. So Mike Tomlin has gone one and done, I think, 8 times in the playoffs now. Where he gets the playoffs, doesn't win a game. There's one coach in NFL history to do that more than he has. Derek, do you know who that is?
Give me a few minutes to think about that. See if I can move my record to 10-10.
Welcome to Beyond Butler, the weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County sports, whether that be professionally or collegiately. We're going to stick, we talked earlier about college football. We're going to stick with that. I know Derek isn't a fan that Ohio State is in the national championship. So my question for you guys is, would you rather have seen an underdog such as Boise State, Arizona State, SMU reach college football playoff national title game And what does it mean for the sport that two blue bloods in Ohio State and Notre Dame made this playoff?
I think, personally, let's face it, across the country, Ohio State's got a lot of fans. Notre Dame's got a lot of fans.
A lot of fans.
So from that perspective, I think there's a lot of interest in that game just because there's fans of both programs all over the country. I was rooting for Penn State, as I told your brother earlier. I don't consider myself a Penn State fan, but
You're wearing blue and white today.
in this field, my wife's family all went to Penn State. She's a Penn State grad. Her dad, her sister. So I was rooting for the Nittany Lions. So I wasn't. And their first game right off the bat was against an underdog in SMU. So I really didn't. I wasn't really focused on the underdogs. I was rooting for Penn State, and once they got out, I honestly really didn't care. But I think there's a ton of interest in this game just because there's a lot of Notre Dame and Ohio State fans. And here's the thing even if you hate Notre Dame,
I do.
To me, that's well, they're playing your
Can't
team.
hate Marcus Freeman though.
Yeah,
That man is an attractive
I can.
man. Nope,
I don't
he is
care.
an
That makes
attractive
me hate
man.
him even more. Are you kidding me?
They're playing your team, but if you hate a team, a lot of people just say, okay, I don't care who they're playing, I'll just root for the other team. So I think there's a lot of interest with the number of grads all over the country from both of these schools and the fact that I would think that, would you agree with this? Notre Dame and Ohio State are both kind of polarizing.
Yeah.
Right? So if you hate one, you can have interest in, okay, let's watch Ohio State beat Notre Dame, or let's watch Notre Dame beat Ohio State. So obviously the underdog would have added a different component to it, but I still think it's a very attractive national championship.
We saw what a national championship can be when an underdog makes it. Was that 2022? After Ohio State missed that field goal against Georgia and TCU slipped past Michigan, 66-7. You want that in your national championship game?
That one.
You really wanted
watch
TCU to make that competitive just for the fun of it, but yeah, that was ugly quick.
I don't know. I also think for the direction of the sport, like the 12-team playoff, I listen to a lot of like podcasts from Yahoo Sports with like top college sport writers about, hey, the SEC wants as many, what do you call it? A stoke in the fire? Is that what you call it?
That could
Whatever.
work, I guess.
They want as many chances in the playoff. They want as many teams to get in from that conference as possible. You know what conference doesn't end up in the national championship game? You know who does? An independent team that I contended to my best friend yesterday who's cheering for Notre Dame. For one, this isn't 1932. Why are you cheering for them? For two, you're so, like, you hate Ohio State so much, right? You hate Ohio State because they're this national brand and they get all the players in the transfer portal and all that. Notre Dame has their own television deal.
Yeah.
All of the money from that deal goes to them. They're the only school in the country that has a deal like that. So if you want to hate Ohio State for having the money they do and having the resources, why not hate Notre Dame too? They're getting that entire, I think it was $20 million to get for getting the semifinal and $6 million for the national title. They don't got to share
That's
that.
like $40 million, I think, for their NBC rights or something.
Yeah, that's
like that.
their money.
Yeah.
And to your point about Marcus Freeman, he played linebacker for Ohio State. And then when he took over at Notre Dame as head coach, Ohio State had interest in bringing him on as a defensive coordinator when Brian Kelly left for LSU. And Marcus Freeman said, and I don't like him because of this reason, he thanks God he didn't make the same mistake twice. You went to a school I know you have to pander to your fan base. You want them to have their money that they give to you to get your players, but you didn't have to go to the bathroom on your school that you graduated from and played football with just to do that. So
my big takeaway from this is I think that all these last couple weeks did was prove that the 12-team formula was a success, an overwhelming success. You had, we had some blowouts early and whatnot, but getting the home games in the first round was, from everything I could see, just a huge success. You get in the first version of this, you don't have 1 through 4 advancing. All 4 of them lose in the second round. So that means that you don't have people that can sit there and claim that it's just the heavy hitters that win.
That didn't need to happen.
Yeah. And you knock the SEC out outside of Texas. So you get the Big Ten in. So you have people that are interested in this because it's not the SEC. It's not the top 1 and 2 teams that are going to win it, which just proves, well, why did we have a tournament anyway when we know 1 and 2 are going to make it anyway? this was the best. You get Middle America in there. You get the Catholic school, which I'm not going to do the Catholics versus convicts thing that Miami and Notre Dame did 30 years ago because I think that's a bit too much. But I think this was just a perfect situation for the NCAA, for the CFP. Like, this was a really good tournament. It was a lot of fun, and you got the perfect outcome to seal its permanence.
I watched most of every college football playoff game except for Clemson, Texas, and that was during the Steelers' loss to Baltimore that same day. So Ohio State won later that night, kind of took the sting away. But I think that as much as people bellyached about this is too many teams, blah, 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 you don't need to expand anymore. I think you have what you need in the 12 teams now. Yeah. So kind of makes me...
It's not going back down, that's for sure.
It kind of makes me sad that it didn't come sooner in a way. Obviously, it makes rivalry losses mean less, but there were a lot of Ohio State teams that lost games late in the season, like my brother talked about with the Michigan State game when they beat Ohio State. That Ohio State team would have been as angry as this one. Mm-hmm. They probably would have shown to be pretty good in a playoff format after that. So, unfortunately, oh well.
We'll have to call you in from a tailgate next week. Get a sideline report on the game.
What was cool was my dad called me right after the Ohio State game. He's like, "Where are we watching?" Because if you talk to my dad, like he likes Ohio State because I like Ohio State. So
nice.
All right, refresh my memory. I forget what it was.
So Mike Tomlin, he doesn't even. Mike Tomlin has 8 one-and-dones in the playoffs, I believe, is the number was. There is one coach in NFL history to have more times to make the playoffs and not win a game in that playoff than Mike Tomlin has. Who is that coach?
Marty Schottenheimer?
Oh, my God. Come on.
Wow.
Come on.
I did need that time to think about it because hey, I'm 10-10. I'm treading water here. I'm better than the Pirates, but
oh, you can't get anything.
Marty
past
Schottenheimer,
him.
5-13 career playoff record.
You got to lob softballs to him for him to miss.
I think the one thing though, like that's a really funny stat, but it also I think speaks credit to Tomlin. Like you have to be around long enough to lose 8 first-round games. That's an achievement in a way. Like it sucks that that you've lost 8 of those, but you had to be there that many times.
The only thing I would say to that is I like Tomlin. I do. But his detractors would say the only reason he's been around that long is because the Rooneys are too stubborn to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I like Tomlin. I do. I think he's a good coach. But I will say this, as a franchise that has as much success in their past that the Steelers have, the fact that they have been blown out in their last 6 playoff games. If you go back to the 2016 AFC Championship game, last 6 playoff games, they've been routed, and that's unacceptable. The only thing is, I mean, when I say unacceptable, what does that mean? Does that mean he should be fired? I mean, what needs to change there? But yeah, we'll talk about that in August. We'll talk about it in April when the draft comes up.
We got other sports going on right now. We got other things besides Steelers football and Brendan's championship going on right now. So what next? What do we got to look back on or look forward to in PIAA Butler County sports?
I'll tell you what we have to look forward to now is to see down the stretch in the high school basketball season here what Seneca Valley can do on boys and girls basketball. Both of them are off to good starts. The boys had a bumpy road because they had some injuries early, but now going into this week's play, again, this show's being taped on Monday the 13th, but Seneca Valley boys are 8-6 overall, 5-1 in this section, including a huge win over Newcastle recently. I think Newcastle was undefeated going into that game. And Seneca Valley's girls are 9-4, 4-0 in section play. Brendan, I know you just recently covered the Seneca Valley game. You did a feature on their boys. What are your thoughts on the Raiders moving forward?
So I think the Seneca Valley boys basketball team is one of those examples of why you need people like us who write about what's happening and go deeper, because you can look at a stat or you can look at the schedule and see they lost however many of the first however many games, and they're not a good team. And then you figure out why they weren't a good team, and they were missing their 2 starting guards, which any basketball team, I mean, that's like taking me off this show, right? Oh. You guys would have a bit of a tougher time if I wasn't here. With that,
he's feeling himself today, boys and girls.
With that they come back and they raise the level of every player on that team. And I saw it firsthand with the plays that those guards made, and then the one guard, Andrew Omassitz, tied for the lead in scoring that game. Meanwhile, Tyler Pepin, he doesn't care. He said, I can score 30 a night, and instead he knows that what's better for that team is to go out and dish the ball around, and that's what he did, and beat a really, I don't want to say desperate, because that has a negative connotation, but the time is winding down for Butler. Like they gotta get going here in section if they want to make the playoffs, and that's a good team in its own right. But the fact that those two are back and the consistency of having those guys for a young team, Tyler Pepin is the only senior. It was really cool to figure out, like, hey, this is why they were losing, and now this is why they're doing good. And I really enjoyed talking about those kids too.
We'll get our first chance really too to see what a difference they make at the top of the section, because I believe both of them, maybe one of them was around, but both of them I don't think were healthy and on the roster the first time they faced Fox Chapel. Round 2 is Friday.
Actually, to be exact there, Tyler Pepin came back against Fox Chapel. Andrew Omassitz was out for his third and final game of a stretch where he was sick. So Pepin didn't have Omassitz, and I think that was on the road too.
Probably shaking off rust.
Yeah, that was on the road or that was at home?
That was at Fox Chapel because I'm covering a game this Friday.
Okay. So, yeah, then this will be the real test for that boys team on Friday. And honestly, I'm going down to North Allegheny to cover Butler that night, but I'm a little jealous that Derek gets to kind of see that unfold.
Yeah, that'll be a good one for you.
Yeah, and regarding Seneca Valley's girls, I just covered them last week in a game against Butler. This game was at Seneca Valley. Seneca Valley was up late. Melina McElroy hits a 3 at the buzzer to tie it for the Golden Tornado, and you're thinking,
this guy gets buzzer beaters and everything.
This Butler team's entering overtime with so much momentum because they just hit the 3. They outscored Butler. Seneca Valley did 14-2 in overtime. So you go, great job by the girls mentally just to go from, okay, we're going to win this game in regulation. Now all of a sudden you got to play 4 more minutes of basketball, and they dominated that 4 minutes, outscoring Butler 14-2. I do want to bring up one thing regarding Seneca Valley's girls. For the vast majority of my time here, Seneca Valley's almost always good on defense, and they have some good, rebounders, some girls that are capable of jumping up here and there and scoring 15 or 16 points. But as far as averaging per game, I think the one girl that's averaged the most for them my whole time here, and again, I've been here 23 years. I can't believe it. It seems like yesterday I showed up. I think it was the 2021-22 season. Olivia West averaged 18 points a game for Seneca Valley's girls, which is obviously a good number, but that it was like she was the exception to the rule. They've always kind of struggled to have a girl step up consistently and score that amount of points. Now they got Natalie Hambley, who's averaging 15 a game. Gracie Cato's averaging 15 a game. And the game I just covered the other night against Butler, Reese McFadden is a freshman, and she put up 21 points against Butler. So, they don't have one girl that's going to stand out above the rest, but they've got 2 or 3 girls that are there to kind of pick each other up. If one has a little bit of an off day, the other 2 can step up and have a big game. And I think that balance is going to be a key to see how far Seneca Valley can go this year, because they've made the playoffs a number of times over the last 20 years. Probably 75% of the time they find themselves in the playoffs. But their last playoff win, Seneca Valley girls, February 2006. That's how long it's been.
At the time of this recording, we should have Laura just chime in with like an editor's note here on Tuesday or Wednesday when she's editing this. Seneca Valley plays Pine Richland for the first time tonight. This is the top team in the section right now, but one of the top teams in the section right now just lost to Butler on Friday night. That'll be key. They face each other 2 times. Round 1 is tonight as of this recording, so you guys will know, or listeners will know what the outcome of that was when they hear this. That'll be a decent game to pay attention to as well.
Till next week.
Check out ButlerEagle.com for Brendan's story, for Derek's coverage of the Butler Seneca Valley games last week, and everything we got coming this week.
Adios. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel with Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.